You know you're in a bit of bother here, Stephen, when you're having to double check what you're talking about. 20 seconds before you go on. Well, hello everybody and welcome into this Monday's entertainment news. I am Jonathan C. Walsh here to discuss the latest happenings. To my left, I'm the host incidentally, to my left is Stephen John McLaughlin. When I can see the Discord stuff at the bottom, with his Apple Pencil and a blurring effect behind, we have to try and secure some kind of pop-up background for Stephen. Much like the early days when I was putting wallpaper on MDF and there was a line between me and Stephen and Kevin, fellow movie burner, was questioning whether we had cracked split screen. We hadn't. It was MDF behind us. I just didn't want to put brick wallpaper on my wall. I digress. Stephen's the co-host for the show tonight. We are discussing three topics, Stephen, and we're starting with one. Martin Scorsese developing yet another Mafia movie, not with Tim Ross, with Eric Ross. Initially I put the thumbnail up and I had Tim Ross on the thumbnail. Clearly big fan of Tim. I am a big fan of Tim. Tim famously working with I can't even hear you, Stephen. That's concerning. I'm worried the audio's not working there. Is it working?
Okay.
Oh shit, I may have muted the wrong thing here. I'll unmute you. I hope you weren't speaking prior to that. But Tim Roth, is it Roth?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim Roth. Big fan of Tim. Obviously of Quentin Tarantino fame. I think he was in the likes of Pulp Fiction and whatnot back in the day, maybe in the Hateful Eight as well. Big fan of that guy. Put him on the thumbnail thinking, fuck me. Tim Roth, kind of director, actor extraordinaire. He's working with Martin Scorsese. No, it turns out it's the other Roth. And the other Roth, Stephen, arguably better. Academy Award winning. Worked on a whole host of incredible films as a screenwriter. So I think we could argue Eric, he does look a bit like the old guy from Home Alone. I think it was Home Alone 2. The guy that was getting accused of being a murderer. But of course...
Shovel guy?
Yeah, the old guy with the shovel. Yeah, he looks a bit like him. But a phenomenal writer, Stephen. And obviously, we've seen a lot of gangster movies and mafia movies from Martin over the years. He's a sublime director and storyteller, certainly within that mobster genre. But this one's different, Stephen, because the early story details have been revealed, as you can see here on screen, and it's set in a different time period. I may be wrong here, but I don't believe Martin's ever dabbled with a, what was it, 19th century? 1890? 19th century gangster?
I'm not sure.
It's 1890. Set in 1890. So that's 19th century. I don't think he's ever tackled that time period in a mafia setting. So I don't know what your thoughts are on this, Stephen. I'm going to share my thoughts as we go along. I don't want to keep speaking. I feel like I've been speaking too much already. So I'll let you in and you can maybe share your thoughts on this piece of illuminating news.
When it comes to Martin Scorsese, I don't think he's actually confirmed. I think Eric Roth has him in mind to direct his screenplay. They've worked together, obviously, in the past, and there certainly will be discussions with Martin Scorsese on this project. But I think Scorsese's actually working on something with Leonardo DiCaprio at the moment.
Yeah, I heard that,
another project.
Yeah.
And the sort of buzz and the feedback I'm getting from obviously this news dropping is that, you know, the sort of
what's your audio again on my side, Stephen? So, but it's fine.
The sort of vibe that is going about just now is that after reading the description of this project, this is what the people want. They don't really want the Leonardo DiCaprio project that's in motion at the moment. But I couldn't tell you if he's ever dabbled this far back in terms of this genre, John. But it's good to see that he's still active. I think he's 83 or something this year.
Yeah, he's getting
84. And he's still active as a director. Well, I mean, Clint Eastwood's the same, isn't he? And he's a lot older. But
it's extraordinary how many projects he's actually involved in as a director. Upcoming. The guy is prolific.
Yeah, but I mean, it's an interesting concept as well, John, in terms of the period as well.
New
It's
Orleans,
something
yeah.
I have not seen a mobster film set in that location in that time period, and it's what he does best. This is the thing. People go, Scorsese's going back to doing another Mafia film, but he does them so well, and there's no one else doing them.
Well, I mean,
you know what I mean? And it's such a great genre.
I'm saying, I mean, he done Gangs of New York, which was set in the 19th century, 1862, also with Daniel Day-Lewis and DiCaprio again. So I'm talking absolute shit, because that was essentially a mafia. It wasn't really a mafia, but it was, in a sense, because Daniel Day-Lewis's character was like a mobster. He was Bill the Butcher. He was kind of like a gangster figure. So he has kind of dabbled in that time period. We know this guy is a phenomenal. He's a fucking one of the greatest ever filmmakers in the history of Hollywood. And we know when he tackles these genres that it's usually excellent. Of course, you've kind of put the spanner on the works there, Stephen, by saying that it's just Eric hopeful that he'll work on it. And like I did allude to there, I mean, I've looked at his upcoming productions. It's extraordinary. He's got 11 films in various stages, a couple in development, one in pre-production, well, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 in pre-production. I think he's got 3 or 4 in post-production. I mean, the guy is prolific. And that's a good thing, because we have seen in the past the likes of Kubrick bowing out with like 8, 9 movies. We've got Tarantino, firmly of that Kubrick mindset where he thinks there's a certain plateau for a director, then it's all downhill after that, and he wants to get out on the top with how many is that, 9 or 10 as well from Tarantino. So it's quite refreshing to see a guy who's still in his 80s get that drive and that desire to tell stories and to wow audiences around the world with his imagination and bringing these time periods and fascinating characters to life. Because the last one he done, I think, was The Irishman. Whilst it wasn't his best work, it was still fascinating to see the story of Jimmy Hoffa and guys like that, and one of the most iconic sort of gangster figures in the United States. If I'm not wrong, the guy who was responsible for interloping and kind of shaping the story of The Godfather. I think it was based on that guy, the Joe Pesci character. It was still fascinating to see that story getting told with an actual novel and a lot of speculation over what happened with the characters. So it's refreshing to see the guy still get the drive. He still want to tell stories, not just in this genre, but other genres. Personally, if it was me and you're combining Eric Roth with Martin, I think that's a match made in heaven within this genre.
I would agree. Yeah.
It's the casting, though. You need to get the casting spot on as well with these kind of films. And sadly, it's just the nature of the beast. As we move forward in time, the sort of iconic mobster kind of actors, De Niro, Pacino, Pesci, the late great Larry Liotta. Larry Liotta, that's his name, yeah. Guys like that, they're now either passed away or they're getting on in years and probably not able to give the performance they could have gave 30, 40, 50 years ago. So, or maybe 50's ripping it, but 30, 40 years ago. So the casting's really where you make or break a film like this. Who is available?
Because Martin Scorsese has always been loyal to, a handful of actors over the past 60 years. And as you said, De Niro, I can't see him coming back to do this kind of thing. I think in terms of, the Killers of the Flower Moon, obviously DiCaprio was heavily involved in that. But I don't think people want to see Leonardo DiCaprio continually being the sort of main actor in a Scorsese film. As good as it is, it would be good to get an unknown cast, a very good cast, but an unknown cast for this one. But I don't think he'll go down that way. I don't think that's
not the way he goes, is it?
Works. But nevertheless, it's an interesting concept. It's an interesting story as well. Going back to, obviously, John the Irishman, I thought it was a fantastic film. The technology just wasn't there for the film. That kind of let it down in so many ways. But, I mean, that's why you bring in the likes of Al Pacino, I think was in his 70s at that point, or maybe late 60s, I'm not sure. And physically they can't perform as younger characters, and we saw that in that film. But in terms of, obviously, as you said, the story, it's historic characters, big names in American history, and I thought it was a very intriguing story. I didn't mind the timelines. The technology was the thing that probably did let it down, and it wasn't cheap to make either. I don't know if it's still the most expensive Netflix film. I'm not sure.
It was crazy expensive. It was over 300 million.
Yeah, but when you get someone obviously like Eric Roth coming in, who has got a long history of adapting very good stories, certainly with Dune Part 1, which is obviously Frank Herbert's story that he adapted into film. And obviously, like Forrest Gump and The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Killers of the Flower Moon that you mentioned, Stephen.
Yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon as well, yeah. So he's worked, as I said, with Scorsese in the past, so I can't see any in terms of production issues or anything like that. Casting is the big thing, John. And I wouldn't mind a fresh cast, an unknown, or perhaps maybe not unknown, but someone that he's not worked with before, There's plenty of great actors.
Extraordinary, Stephen. When you look at this guy's career, I mean, even the lesser hits like The Horse Whisperer, I think that was Robert Redford. That was a favourite of my mother's growing up, and it was a fantastic film. The Insider, Ali, Munich, just fucking incredible films. Throughout this guy's
film, yeah.
A Star Is Born was that another. Really enjoyed. Obviously, that was a remake of a remake of a remake. It's been like 3 iterations, but it was a pretty impressive film. So you know what you're getting with this guy. You're going to get characters that pop. He's dabbled with really difficult source material and you can make it work. You can, like I say, combine that with the directing talents of Martin and you get the cast right. You've got an Academy Award-winning movie here.
There is a quote there, isn't there, John, on screen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just reading the synopsis here. And Stephen, I didn't even realise there was Mafia figures in New Orleans. So this is going to be an educational journey for me.
Yeah.
When I think gangsters and mafia in the United States, immediately I'm transported to New York, to Chicago. Those are the 2 sort of strongholds I think of. I don't really think of New Jersey. I don't really think of New Orleans. When I think of New Orleans, I think of sort of Caribbean or Caribbean, as they say in the States in North America. Like fusion with the United States. Also the great cuisines you get from that, the likes of gumbos and whatnot. I mean, I fucking absolutely love sort of
music as well.
New Orleans, music. It's an incredible place. You've got Mardi Gras, I think, annually, the big sort of festival. That's what I think of when I think of New Orleans. I don't think of a mafia and mobster figures, but I did a brief look into it. There was lynchings. I think there was a large Italian contingent. There was a lot of controversy. I think 9/11 sort of Italian figures were murdered. There was a lot of riots and uproar. So it is an interesting time period.
The thing about this project as well, which intrigues me, and it's a thing that's always attached to mafia mobster films anyway, is vengeance, and that's the thing that Eric Roth talks about. He mentions it obviously in his quote there as well. I think it's been dubbed Midnight Vendetta, so it kind of explains what the theme is going to be anyway. But
it looks really character driven as well, based on what that quote's saying. But it's almost like a Tarantino movie. That last sentence, couple of sentences. These people were brought up in 1860, 1870 Sicily. They were part of this mafia and they continued on. I have this scene where our hero, I'm not sure if he's actually heroic, but anyway, the lead of our film wants vengeance on the rival Don and he comes sneaking into an opera while the opera is going and slits the throat of his enemy. I can picture that. I can picture the storytelling, the building of the characters throughout the movie, and it sort of builds to this moment. And I can almost picture it being like a one-shot, following the guy, getting out of a car, walking up the steps, getting into this building, and just following him all the way, and I'm just going right in and fucking slitting his throat. That's painting a picture in your mind right away. And again, that'll speak volumes of what the guy's all about in terms of his writing ability, that he's able to conjure up these images and sort of convey it to an audience. So, I mean, I'm definitely on board for it. I mean, you can't... I mean, I kind of joked in another mobster film, but when you combine this guy with this genre, it just fucking works, man. It's magic.
As well, John, in terms of his filmmaking and his style as well, it's going to be worth a watch. You mentioned a one-shot, John. I think that's the kind of thing we always pick up on when we're watching type series and film well. And you think back to Scorsese's filmography, and so many standout scenes that that are etched in your mind the way he shot a certain sequence or a certain actor. The way he's portrayed and the way his decision making in terms of maybe a close up of the actor, and as you said, character driven as well. It's something that Scorsese is very good at. Is really
and getting the performances
in the character and having the characters connect with the audience as well. So
Stephen, it's little moments of dialogue. I mean, I think of The Irishman, I think of Pesci saying to, I always blank in the name of the De Niro character. I know Pacino played Hoffa, but it's Frank something, yeah. But he says to him basically, we're usurping, we're kicking him out of the unions. Tell him it is what it is. He'll not be happy about this. Just tell him it is what it is. What a fucking line. What a moment. I think of it all the time.
Yeah.
And then he goes and relays that to him. He told me to tell you it is what it is. And he knows what that means. It's such a throwaway line. But when he conveys that to Hoffa, he's like, look, the President of the United States of America has just been assassinated not long ago. If they can do that to him, they can do it to you. It's just a powerful fucking scene with incredible actors and brilliant dialogue. So you combine these figureheads with a great cast. That's an Academy Award winning movie. That's what you've got here.
That's what they're saying. They're saying that in the article, John, and it's something I like about Scorsese's decision making as well. And I know we're going to talk about a subject, later on in the show about decision making when it comes to filmmakers. Scorsese knows what he wants, and he knows how to. Every ending to a Scorsese film always leaves you thinking, and always stays with you for a very long time. And the likes of Shutter Island, films like that, it's such a perfect film in my opinion. And the execution as well. And I know we'll talk about obviously decision making and having the audience involved in certain things and another subject later on in the show, John. But it's one of the things you can get into a Scorsese film and trust them, and you're going to come out and be rewarded. You're going to have spent the last 2-3 hours, whatever it may be. I think Irishman was 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's going to be worth the journey, because it focuses and it invests so much in obviously the writing with Eric Roth. You're going to get a really character-driven production.
It's amazing though, Stephen, because you look at his career and you immediately think of gangsters and mafia movies, but he's had such a varied output. I mean, Taxi Driver and things like that. I mean, that's just about blowing that society.
Doing it now, John. There's not many directors and filmmakers out there doing that genre anymore. It's almost like the Western genre. It's a dying genre, unfortunately.
And he worked with Newman, obviously, in The Colour of Money. I think that was about the sort of hustler, pool hustler. I thought that was in black and white. Am I thinking about a different movie? Clearly I am. I've seen a lot of Newman movies. Newman's my favourite actor of all time. I fucking love that guy. Loved him. He was incredible. But he's got an incredible output. I mean, it's not just like mobster movies. The guy's done everything. He's really diversified in the last 20 years or so as well, with great documentaries. Bob Dylan and Rolling Stones, the Beatles. He's dabbled with great documentaries as well, also George Harrison. So he's just a phenomenal director, figurehead, and I'm just first and foremost glad to see the guy still compos mentis. And we've seen him in that brilliant interview back round about the time of The Irishman, sitting with the likes of De Niro and I think a couple of others, having a meal and just having a conversational sort of interview. It was fantastic, fascinating to see the guy. And obviously he's courted controversy over the years by taking pot shots at Marvel movies and whatnot. And look, the guy's right, ultimately. It's not proper fun. I mean, they're enjoyable and entertaining experiences, but they don't stack up against great drama.
I think it was always up against that, John, just by the timing of that, though, because everyone was caught up in the whole MCU thing, and, it was just hit after hit in terms of that, franchise, and I think for a filmmaker it becomes very frustrating and stifling that they are not just him. I don't think he was just speaking about himself. I think he was speaking about other filmmakers. And thankfully we've got studios like A24 and the horror one, what's it called again?
Blumhouse.
You've got these
Searchlight.
production, Searchlight as well. You've got these places, and it's a place that directors can go, similar to Netflix, I suppose, in a way as well. I think it becomes frustrating for a filmmaker not to have their film as exposed as the alongside the sort of franchise at that time. But that's something that's not new. It's not just the comic book. We've seen it with Star Wars in the 70s and 80s as well. It happens. There's room for everything, but I can understand from an artistic point of view, from the filmmaker's point of view, that perhaps it becomes a bit frustrating that the audience are not as hungry for these independent films and original films. They want to see sequels, and I think it's just a conditioning thing, unfortunately.
And ultimately, I always maintained, whilst I didn't fully agree with his comments, understood what he was saying, probably in the course of time he'd be proven to be right, but that you respect a guy like that no matter what, because of what he's done, his impact in the actual business, as opposed to guys like Stephen Dorff, for instance, who open their mouth up and take pot shots when they've not really done anything of note.
Funny how you remember him.
Not had a career of any real note, and they want to take pot shots at people like Scarlett Johansson, for instance, who's had a great career, not just playing Black Widow, but doing other roles, really artsy, independent roles. So you don't listen to people like that, but you listen to Scorsese. Stephen, the last thing I would touch on, are you looking forward? You made reference to the upcoming collaboration with DiCaprio again. Obviously it's Roosevelt, isn't it? He's doing a sort of biopic of the late President Theodore Roosevelt, I can't say the name right. Roosevelt, I want to say it as. I may be wrong though, I'm not American. I can't really understand the blowback on that film, because right off the bat, you look at young man, and I'm going to try and get a photograph. I know what he looks like, and I can tell you just now, DiCaprio is just perfect for that role. They can make that guy look at him very, very easily. And I'm going to bring a picture up just now and see if I can make it work. I'll copy that link address and go there, because I'm using 50 million different browsers here. I've got the browser where we've got the movie.
Don't answer your question while you're doing that though. I think you've said it. I'm sure you've said it. I'll quote you. You've said that DiCaprio, once he's probably finishing acting, he'll probably step into the director's chair. And he spent so much time with Scorsese over the last 15, 20 years as well. And I know he's got his own sort of production company as well. So in terms of obviously the subject, I can see him play it. Yep. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I mean, look at that. I could literally picture DiCaprio playing that character right now. Visually, 100% tailor-made to play that character. He's obviously had previous playing the first sort of director of the FBI as well, I'm sure. Was that Killers?
Yeah.
Was that? There was another one, wasn't there? What was that called, that film?
I'll just bring it up just now.
I can't remember. It was a name. It was the name of the actual guy. Leonardo DiCaprio. I can't be arsed bringing it up. It's all good.
I can't remember.
I personally don't get the blowback on that film. I think that film will be incredible. We know that he can do biopics. We know that DiCaprio is generational talent. That'll be an Academy Award-winning movie when it comes out all day long. On some level, it may just be technical, but it will be an Academy Award-winning movie. Mark my words.
Yeah.
I can't remember. That's annoying me. I can't remember that film. I'm going to search it up. I can't help myself. FBI movie. It was called J. Edgar. J. Edgar.
Yeah. Oh, there's another one as well, John. Hoover.
Hoover.
Yeah. The Devil in the White City is, I think, the one that's referred to in the article. Obviously, Scorsese. So, again, these two are, they're so, busy at the moment, heavily involved in each other. And again, the untitled Hawaii set crime drama, Scorsese, and obviously DiCaprio's in that as well. I don't know how many they're doing. There's another one there, an untitled Jane Goodall movie. I don't know what that's about.
When you're combining those two incredible people.
DiCaprio's such a busy guy as well.
You should never be complaining about those two guys working together. I mean, there's going to come a point where that can't happen, and it won't be that far into the future where you can't have those two great creative forces working together. So you should really enjoy it whilst you've got it. It's like, I mean, I'm going to make a comparison to sort of football here, and it shouldn't be getting made because it makes no fucking sense, but it kind of does. team I support, also you support them as well, Stephen, Celtic. A lot of the younger generation have grown up knowing nothing but success. And we certainly grew up in different eras where there was no success. And you become complacent and you take things for granted when you should really be enjoying everything you fucking get in the moment. Good or bad, you should be enjoying these people collaborating. So I will never complain about DiCaprio collaborating with Scorsese as long as it's great films. If it's absolutely shite, then I'll not be scared to say that's absolutely shite. But I highly doubt that will happen, given the two guys who are involved. But I don't know what's just happened there. We've lost you there briefly. I'm moving you about the screen, which kind of sums up this stream a little bit. What I'm going to go in and do to make sure that never happens again is lock it so that doesn't happen. There's absolutely no need for that to ever happen. But I digress, Stephen. I've been talking the entire time and I've not at any point had the graphics up. And to be fair, when you look at that graphics bar, not a bad thing. Bad thing. That's a bit of slang coming in there. Shall we move on to the next topic though, Stephen?
Yeah, let's do it.
Next topic's all about Andor. Cassian Andor. And its record-breaking budget, which has now been confirmed by the showrunner himself, Mr. Tony Gilroy, who we spoke about for a long, long time the other night. I'm getting all of these fucking adverts for JD Sports. I don't know why, because I very rarely, if ever, shop at JD Sports. Can't even see it properly because I'm cutting it off, so I'm going to endeavour to make that visible by doing that. And as you can see, Andor showrunner Tony Gilroy has confirmed the Star Wars show's massive rumoured budget. Streaming budgets have ballooned over the years with epic shows like Stranger Things, The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Severance, The Wheel of Time, costing inordinate amounts of money. The Rings of Power Season 1, for instance, cost Amazon an estimated $462 million, which is not exactly surprising when you look at the visuals. Certainly can't poke fun at the visual aspects of that show. It's stunning. Stands up with Hollywood movies in terms of visuals. Sadly, the story's just incredibly boring. You think the Andor early episodes in Andor Season 1 and Season 2 were slow-paced, then fuck me, watch Rings of Power. I am one of the biggest Tolkien fans on earth. I've read every novel the guy put out. I've read his autobiography. I've got map books. I couldn't finish it. It was tedious, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of these things, John, Andor was kind of unique because we knew where it was going with Rogue One, but with obviously the Lord of the Rings stuff, unless you're, as you know, like yourself, an avid reader of Tolkien, you're not really going to know that. And to be fair, I think, you know, the demographics for a web series like that, it's probably just a general audience. And if you don't connect with them within the first episode, they've lost you. You know, I found that with The Witcher. I didn't know anything about The Witcher going into it. Big fan of Henry Cavill. I watched the first episode and I never went back to it. Yeah. I just could not bring myself to invest in it. And there's so much content out there, John, but in terms of Andor, yeah, I know we did the review the other day, so we don't want to talk about performances and all that, but in terms of production, this is what this subject, I suppose, is about. It's about the budget.
Yeah.
It's obviously, when you bring a cast in like that as well, it's going to cost a heavy penny as well. Stellan Skarsgård just off the bat, you know, and it's going to be expensive, you know, but that's what you need for this type of story from Gilroy and his writers is a stellar cast, and that's what we got. But you have to pay the price for that.
Well, I mean, Stephen, it's a natural sort of continuation of the bleeding of film into TV, where 20 years ago there was some great TV shows out, Lost, The Sopranos and things like that. There was Life on Mars over here, Ashes to Ashes, there was The Office. They were great content, brilliant watching. But in terms of the vibe and the look and the acting, there was a clear sort of difference between what you were getting in a theatre, with an actual feature-length movie, and what you were getting in TV. Over the course of the last 15, 20 years, though, there's definitely been a bleeding of the lines, and you're certainly seeing the acting talent on a par. I mean, it's the same actors. We've got Hugh McGregor, we've got Stellan Skarsgård, Diego Luna. These are Hollywood actors. starring in blockbuster movies, feature-length drama movies, now acting in TV shows, and we've seen that across the board.
John, Breaking Bad, I think they were the ones,
Bryan
that really
Cranston.
pushed the boundaries, in terms of high quality production. Because the issue in the past was that, the likes of David Duchovny for the X-Files, his goal was to become a film star, to, and if they had what they have now, he wouldn't have that sort of desire, because you see film stars flitting in and out of web series all the time, and they go back to film, so there's not a stigma. I don't think the snobbery is once what it was. It's still there. Of course, most people want to be film stars who are actors. That's their sort of main aim, to be in a big blockbuster film, big budget film. And web series are still secondary. But I think you're right. I don't think it's as big a gap in quality anymore in terms of budget and production, storylines, effects, visuals, cast. It's very much on par, as close as it's going to be. It's really just the actor's ambition now.
You had prominent filmmakers saying that's an Emmys kind of project, that's an Emmys movie, that's an Emmys actor or performance. Kind of derisory manner of dealing with these kind of things back in the day, whereas now they're of a similar quality, Stephen, because quite frankly, the talent that's making the movies is the same talent that's making TV. There's a real attention being put into it now. And obviously the budgets, you can look at the budgets there. I mean, we spoke about Rings of Power, not a great show, but they're certainly thrown money at it, 462 million for that's just season 1, which is even more than Andor, which we'll get into in a moment. But Obi-Wan Kenobi, not a phenomenal show, but certainly 90 to $100 million for a short show? 6 episodes, 8 episodes, I can't remember the exact length. But you've got Ewan McGregor, that's a fucking A-list actor. You've got Hayden Christensen coming back, and the visual effects and just the way it was shot with the volume and whatnot. There's some iconic stuff in that even though it's not a great show, the stuff where Anakin and Vader and obviously Obi-Wan, him carving the sort of cut in the helmet, and it's mimicking, and just the attention to detail obviously on a story level, where Ahsoka took one side, Obi-Wan took another side, Luke took the whole helmet off, and it kind of represents the character in these various forms, where he's at on an emotional level. That was fantastic, but you can see where the money's going in these shows. Ahsoka, you've got brilliant actors in there, whether you agree with it or not. Rosario Dawson's a fucking brilliant actor. She's worked with the best talent in the industry. Obviously,
the Mandalorian.
The Mandalorian.
The directors. Yeah,
Pedro Pascal. Giancarlo Esposito. You've got top actors. Directors as well. You've got Bryce Dallas Howard, Taika Waititi, Deborah Chow, I think, potentially was one as well. You've got brilliant directors and talent involved behind the camera, in front of the camera. That costs money. And obviously inflation, everything goes up. Costs. So it's not really fair to say, look, this cost a lot of money. This is fucking ridiculous. What are they doing with the money? Obviously, with the Acolyte's a slightly more egregious one, because it was absolutely shite by all accounts. I couldn't bring myself to watch it.
Aston as well, John, was a weird one. It was very, I'm not going to criticise them for not going for very famous actors or anything like that, because the whole thing about Star Wars was, the main characters in A New Hope were up and coming. And you probably put a couple of classically trained actors like Alec Guinness and Peter Cushing in there, just to sort of balance up the quality of acting. But in terms of the Acolyte, Squid Game guy is obviously the critical drinker, called him. I couldn't really pinpoint too many. Obviously, from The Matrix, I'm blanking on her name.
Carrie-Anne Moss.
Yeah, Carrie-Anne Moss, there wasn't too many familiar faces.
Yeah, I mean, that was just too politicised as well. I mean, far too much political stuff being put in there. And I'm not going to get into it because it's... I just don't care. I'm never going to see it, Stephen. I'm just not interested in the story. I'm not interested in the sort of agenda being pushed. I'm not really about gay space witches and their sort of coven and nonsense that's going on, and sort of rewriting the lore of Star Wars and the history of Star Wars and introducing characters that shouldn't be there, because it's just fucking nonsense. So I'm not really interested in that. I'm interested in high calibre content, and that certainly doesn't tick the box. That's the one anomaly for me. $231 million for that is a bit scandalous. I don't know what they were doing there. But certainly for this, I mean, he's went on to say, Gilroy in the quote, I mean, this is $650 million. For 24 episodes, I never took a note. We said, fuck the Empire in the first season, and they said, can you please not do that? In season 2, they said, streaming is dead. We don't have the money we had before. So we fought hard about money, but they never cleaned anything up. That comes with responsibilities. Stephen, I heard from some other sort of source, it may have been on YouTube, I can't remember where, it may have been Critical Drinker or someone else, that he was just going to Kathleen and saying, look, I need this, I want that. And she was just saying, okay, you've got it. Green lighting it.
Well, you commended Kathleen Kennedy. It was one of the rare times you did.
Oh yeah, I mean, she green lit it.
For backing this, and it would have probably been easier just saying, no, this is your budget and this is what you stick to, work with it, but in any sort of production on a web series, I do wonder what the studio are getting back from it, apart from a subscription. What are they getting back for it, for the amount of money they spent? We talked about The Irishman, John, apart from obviously it being such a big production for Netflix and a big name in terms of Scorsese and De Niro and Pacino, and it was a big event back in 2019 when that film was released. But what did they actually get? If you're going to maybe have a run in the cinema, I think The Irishman did for perhaps maybe about 7 to 10 days before it came onto Netflix. I don't really see what they're getting out of it, putting it onto Netflix, other than getting subscribers. And it's the same with Amazon, it's the same with Disney Plus as well.
Residual as well, isn't it? To say, look, we've had Martin Scorsese direct a movie for our platform, and the sort of reputation that comes to Netflix, having worked with an esteemed person like that, obviously long term, it may draw people in because you think...
What does that cost them?
Yeah, I know it cost a lot of money, but to be fair, there was a talk for a long time that Netflix were on their knees and potentially going to be downsizing and losing this sort of streaming war to the likes of Disney Plus, Apple TV Plus, but they seem to have rebounded. And the content they're putting out now is getting there again. I've not actually watched anything for a while, to be fair. Every time I go into Netflix now, I just watch WWE. So I'm maybe not the best judge. But Stephen, certainly in terms of Andor, I mean, they're giving their opinion here, this writer on Screen Rant, they're absolutely spot on. A lot of the money was spent on high calibre location shoots, massive practical sets, practical, tangible things on the set for the actors to work with, along with the acting talent that you're bringing on board. So that comes with a cost. When you want to make things real and tactile and you can actually interact with them, much like Christopher Nolan likes to do, then there's the added costs that come with it. If you want to go down the George Lucas route in the early 2000s of making everything a blue screen of hell or death, then it can be cheaper in the long term because you're just animating things and you can cheap out and do what Marvel have been doing for the last 5-6 years and screw over the sort of animation people and give, because that's what they do in Hollywood anyway. It's the sort of lowest bidder wins, and the quality obviously drops because they've got really short times to get it done. They get sloppy and people start picking up on it. There's no worry with the likes of Gilroy and Andor with that kind of nonsense. There is CGI in there, but it's used sparingly, and that's where you get the money. Getting lost. We praised it, Stephen. We praised the production, we praised the sets, we praised the costume design, the makeup. It's a fucking stunning show. Stunning.
I went back and watched season 2 again, John. I just finished it tonight. I wanted to see it from that point of view, because obviously when we did the watch along, we're too busy concentrating on the performance. So when you back and you watch all these sets, and it makes you wonder how they did certain things, in terms of obviously lower ground Coruscant, which I thought was very interesting to see, and spend a bit of time there. But just all these different locations that they were using, some of them obviously were actual proper locations, real life locations, and certainly I think the volume was used for certain things like perhaps maybe Gorman and those lower levels of Coruscant. But
I
just the
think
way
they
they
built
sort
the
of
courtroom though, or the courtyard. I think that was an actual practical set because it felt like it was.
yeah, I mean they did that with the Mandalorian as
yeah,
well. I think what they do is they build practical sets with the volume
yeah,
surrounding it,
yeah,
and it just gives it that sort of it can fill it out,
yeah.
and it's just such a great tool to use if it's used properly.
There
But I
was
think
great
with
stuff
Andor,
later on though, Stephen, on Coruscant, with also the moment where Mon Mothma gives her speech in the Senate and then has to flee, and the sort
yeah,
of staircase stuff getting up leading into the
that's
Senate.
fantastic. Yeah.
That felt like an actual location.
Yeah.
Where the drivers getting up, and it was fucking unbelievable. I don't know if
Yeah, a
that was an
lot of it was
actual.
like those old 1970s shopping arcades that you get here.
Yeah,
That whole concrete thing going on, the
yeah.
sort of beigeness of it, and I liked that because it made it look lived in, and that's one of the things that Star Wars was always very good at, was making it look lived in. It's not brand new. It's not just because it's sci-fi doesn't mean it has to be sparkly and shiny. It's these people have lived here for hundreds and thousands and years, and that's the kind of vibe you got from it. But from from the visuals as well, and I think in terms of the score throughout as well, John, you've got to employ very talented people to put the music together as well. And it's one of the things that stayed with me was the sort of closing sequence to the series. Just that score, it was fantastic, so emotional, and it just went with what we were seeing on screen so well. It was fantastic, just in terms of
That was one of the aspects, though, Stephen, what you touched on there.
design as well. My wife said, it's amazing, that they've actually got the 1970s vibe down to a T.
Yeah.
And when I say 1970s vibe, it's not supposed to be a 1970s
but the
Star
Emperor.
Wars, but everything about the dress code,
the
everything,
haircuts,
the hairstyles, the moustaches.
sideburns.
Lonnie Jung with that moustache and the sideburns and the side part.
Yeah.
Everything was well
It's
thought
like
out.
the guy we were talking about on the Death Star, in the sort of meeting when Vader walks in and they're talking about, I've just been given news that the Emperor's dissolved the Imperial Senate. How impossible, how will we deal with this? Local bureaucracy will deal with these problems, and fear of this Death Station will deal with the rest. That guy with the sideburns, I mean, he could have slotted right into Andor and he'd have fitted in. They got the aesthetics bang on. Stephen, you touched upon it there, and I mean, that's one of the things that stood out for me in Andor, and they've done a great job of sort of bridging that disconnect between the original trilogy aesthetics, where it was grittier, grimier, because they're focusing on Han Solo's Millennium Falcon, you're focusing on the inside of X-Wings and Yavin War. It is grittier, it's sort of lower income environments you're in, whereas the prequels were full of sort of politics and highfalutin upper echelon kind of characters, Imperial Senate and Emperors and the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. It's opulent, there's lots of money, they're cleaner, more sort of clinical in their looks, but they've done a brilliant job of bridging that by having these different levels of society in this show, so you still had that cleanness of environment when you were on Chandrila or you were on Coruscant with Mon Mothma or Luthen and his sort of day-to-day stuff in the gallery, and then when you went down into the grittiness with Andor and the likes, then you get that Star Wars 1977, 83, 80, whatever the fuck Empire was, coming through in the aesthetics. So I thought that's another thing Gilroy done, sort of explaining, and there won't be that issue for new audiences now if they do go and watch it. Why is that so clean and the technology is different, and why is this, which is meant to be in the future, grotty and the technology seems dumber? Well, they explained it because it's different fucking environment, different.
You probably know this more than myself in terms of its reception, overall reception of the not just season 2, probably the whole thing. I'm not really sure how it was received. Jen, I think it was a fantastic journey, that started back 3 years ago, and what was it, 24 episodes we got, and you can't do that in film. You can't tell those stories and have that sort of level of detail and time with each character in a film. I think that's probably one of the things that the films did suffer for, was that it had to be fast moving, it had to be fast paced. We didn't really get to know so many characters. I mean, George Lucas was very good at, making sure he had 3 very prominent characters throughout the original trilogy that you could focus on and connect with. There's no doubt about that. But in terms of the cast, the size of the cast for a series like Andor, you could not do that in film and give all these characters the time that Tony Gilroy did. So it's going to be very intriguing to see what they do next in terms of. I know obviously they're going to be working on the Ryan Gosling film.
Yeah.
I've read it, and I think you agree. I'm not in Star Wars films anymore.
I think TV's the future.
And I would love to see the likes of Bix and
we had a great
the other
comment,
characters that survived. Perhaps maybe working with the Bothans, at some point, for getting those plans for Death Star 2. And it wouldn't be, I don't think you'd have to do a rehash of Andor or anything like that. It's a continuation of these characters.
It can be a different sort of vibe, a different genre. You can do something different with those characters because you've not got the likes of Luthen and this sort of political thriller aspect going on where you're trying to form a rebellion. It's already formed. You can go down a more sort of streamlined action route with the likes of the, I'm blanking on her name, sort of Northern Yorkshire character who lost her love interest. The cousin of Mon Mothma. You could do things like that.
Val? I can't remember.
Yeah, something like I thought it was like Vela or something, but I've made it up. But I think it was Val, you're right. You can go down a more traditional, streamlined sort of action route with these characters and have a boots in the ground, gritty story with a similar vibe, maybe cheaper overall. But Stephen, talking about the actual budget, when I crunched some numbers there, just fucking fag packet mathematics. I'm not exactly Einstein in my maths, but I averaged it out at 45 minutes per episode. Also, some are an hour, some are about 30 odds. But if you average it at about 45 minutes per episode, 24 episodes, it's 1,080 minutes. You divide that by 60, 18 hours of content across the 2 seasons. You then divide that by 2.5, which is about the average for a film, Star Wars film, 2.5 hours. You get about 7 movies worth of storytelling here. You then divide 650 million by 7, basically 7 movies. It'd be the equivalent of 7 $92 million movies. I don't think that's outlandish money for the acting calibre, the talent you've got, with the set design, the stories that are being told. It's fucking incredible storytelling. And a galaxy that's...
Those would be in cinemas, that's the only difference, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's 92 million per movie, it's nothing. These Star Wars movies were probably...
Not today's money, it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing. I don't know what Star Wars cost back in the day, probably a lot less because they were creating props on ping pong tables and revolutionising the sort of... the actual industry and creating ILM and all these incredible sub-companies, which obviously streamlined the process as we moved into the future. So it was probably different back then, but certainly the prequels, they were definitely more expensive per movie than $90 million. So I don't think it's outlandish. I thought the show was absolutely extraordinary. It's one of the best pieces of Star Wars content we've ever had. The acting, the character development, the themes he was exploring, the jeopardy injected.
I wasn't that up or down about it when it was announced. I liked the character casting Andor and Rogue One. Obviously liked Diego Luna, but I just thought a whole series. I'm not really sure about that. I don't really know if there's enough in that, but I mean, what do I know? But that was my initial reaction to this announcement. I think perhaps maybe I was more excited about the Obi-Wan stuff at the time.
Yeah, naturally.
But certainly this is on another level.
Because it's Obi-Wan, Stephen. I mean, he's one of the iconic characters of Star Wars. Yeah. You're getting Ewan McGregor back, you're getting Hayden Christensen back, you're thinking, Jesus Christ, jackpot. And we also were nearly getting a movie with Mangold, and we've had the guy on different channels now who was tasked with writing a trilogy of movies, and the story he had outlined was fucking astonishing. If it was greenlit, it would have been incredible as a Star Wars fan. You'd have been delving into the psyche of Obi-Wan, where he was mentally after the prequels, how it tore him apart. He lost all confidence, he almost disconnected from reality because he thought he'd killed his brother, his sort of student, his friend, and he just grew and grew and grew throughout it to the point where he could confront him. It was just an incredible potential we had with those characters. Sadly, they dropped the ball. There's still brilliant moments in it that I alluded to, but they did drop the ball by forcing fucking Leia into it.
Shifted to the young character, the young Leia character. And there was nothing against. I thought she was great. I actually liked her portrayal of a young Leia, but there was too much time spent on her. You know?
I'm just not for those kind of young iterations of the character. I think it's one of the biggest mistakes George made in the prequels, making Anakin so young in a Phantom Menace or that Phantom Menace. That was a ball dropped. If they'd gave Hayden 3 movies, he'd had so much more time to develop a character. He wouldn't have had to have rushed so much in the Revenge of the Sith movie. And he could have gave him a real brilliant sort of, what would I call it? Not drop, but sort of regression, and not regression, I can't think of the word. Sort of dive into darkness, if you like. That's the best I can come up with just now. Sort of fall to the dark side. It could have been so much more articulate the way it was handled if it was over 3 movies with a teenage getting into like 20-something Anakin, instead of having this young, annoying fucking kid who's going on about, are you an angel? And yippee, and all of that shit. I understand what he was trying to do. He was trying to show it's just an ordinary kid who's been shaped and corrupted into becoming the most hateful and sort of dangerous man in the galaxy. But it just didn't work for me. And again, I'm sort of backdropping that by saying, look, there's nothing against the Leia actress, although she's made some remarks that I'm fundamentally fucking disagree with. Star Wars is male-driven or some shit. Not in the last fucking 10 years it's not been. Don't know where you've been. But it's not anything against a 10-year-old actor. I just don't like introducing these characters when they're very young. Fuck's sake, Luke came into the story, he was in his 20s, or like 19. That's young enough. You're limited with what you can do with a kid. So it didn't work for me. It shouldn't have been a part of the Obi-Wan story. Leia should never have been in it. If anything, it should have been Luke, and even then I wouldn't have wanted to have seen Luke as a little boy. I wanted them to focus on Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's what we all came for, John. That's why I think I was more excited about it, because Ewan was coming back to reprise the role after so long, and the possibility, I'm not sure at the time if Hayden was announced or connected to it, but you knew there was a potential that, you know, there was going to be another face-off with Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. And yeah, I mean, it's just the familiarity of obviously the character, and we all grew up with him, and just that sort of excitement. So I think Andor was kind of overshadowed at its announcement, and in the sense of, all right, okay, that's good. You know, I like Diego Luna, and the character Andor was interesting enough. I don't know if there's enough there for a whole series. Well, we actually get 2, so it just goes to show, John, sometimes you don't know what you want. And I think Star Wars fans are famous for not really knowing what they want. You know,
I think you were right though, Stephen. I think you were right though, because if it was just focused on Cassian, it wouldn't have worked. It would have been terrible. Because I mean, he's a great character, but he's not got enough about him to carry 2 seasons of a show. It was the introduction of Luthen, of I'm fucking blanking on her name again. Terrible. Claire, and the likes of Mon Mothma, and bringing Saw Gerrera back, and bringing in Krennic, and having the fucking, I'm about to call him Cartouche, I think that's a poster on Kerrydale Street. Fucking bureau guy, having the this guy does the photographs and all that back. I don't know if he's still alive. It's been that long since I've seen him. But Mon Mothma and fucking blank on their names now, Dedra and Cyril, those characters sprinkled in alongside, and Bix alongside Cassian, they're what made the show. Because we already know the fate of Andor, so it would have been fucking disastrous if it just followed Andor. It wouldn't have been great. It was the brilliant use of Luthen and all these other side characters whose fates we don't know. That's what gave so much jeopardy and bonded you to the show. And you were on that journey, the different levels of bringing this rebellion together. That's why I maintain they could have called it something else. It didn't even have to be called Andor. It could have been fucking anything.
And what we've done is we've done another review.
I know. It's because, Steve, when we start talking about Star Wars, it just goes and goes and goes. We had a whole fucking show dedicated to Star Wars back in the day. I can talk about Star Wars until I am fucking drawing my final breath. I've not seen the original trilogy in about 5 fucking years or something. They nearly ruined it. I think since I seen the fucking Rise of Skywalker, I've not went back, but I'm still tremendously passionate about the franchise, and I want it to be great moving forward. And Andor is an example of fuck the budget, doesn't matter if it's great storytelling, fuck the viewership, because in the end, people will see what it is. It's great storytelling, it's great character development. It may take a decade, but people will come to their senses and realise that was fucking sensational. And that's what you need. So, continue going in this route, please. No more shite films. TV is the future for Star Wars. I maintain it. Fuck the films. Leave them alone. You're terrible at them. But I digress, Stephen. Shall we move on to the final topic? Can't even remember the topic bar at this stage. The camera's blanking out again. That's worrying. I think it's on its last legs, that cable. I need to get another dummy battery. It's Housefull 5 includes surprises. It's a shite topic bar, to be honest with you. I struggled to fit it in. That's not even remotely what we're talking about here. We're really talking about the concept of multiple endings, to the point where, you know what, I'm just going to fucking ditch that shitey bar because it's not fit for purpose. Stephen, essentially, it's a new Indian release, I believe. It's Sahid Nadiadwala's Housefull 5. It's a movie that's come out now. We're not going to pretend that we've seen this movie, I've not even reacted.
John.
Yeah, exactly. Is it an actual fifth iteration of Housefull? I just assumed it was like 5 characters and it's Housefull. But it's really the concept, Stephen, of this multiple ending thing. Bringing back that element of surprise and our sort of disagreement with it, Stephen. Multiple ending theatrical model.
Yeah.
I fundamentally disagree with this as a concept. I think it's an absolute cop-out. It's creative bankruptcy. It's shitebaggery, whatever you want to call it. And I'm not shitting on Sahid Nadiadwala because clearly it's been successful and he's getting success from it. And certainly in the context of India, we know there's a more diverse sort of regional thing going on where culturally there's distinct differences, religious differences, sort of just differences in general in terms of dialect and languages and whatnot. So if you're maybe dealing with an audience in, I don't know, Kerala, for instance, or Chennai or Mumbai or Delhi, they're all different. They all want different things from a story. And if you can provide 4 or 5 different endings for different regions and make them all happy, then more the power to you. I just think it's a fucking cop-out though, but we'll get into it, Stephen. What is your thoughts on it?
It's the film, the 1985 film Clue. If you've seen that, you'll know exactly the sort of concept to this, obviously having
I've heard of it, I've not seen it.
From 1985, and one of the things that it mentions in this article from obviously the filmmaker himself, saying the idea of having multiple endings, multiple experiences has been with me for 30 years, reveals producer Nadiwala, who sees the cruise ship set murder mystery as the perfect vehicle for his long-harboured concept. It's the kind of thing that works, or it should, you think, would work in a murder mystery, because you can have the multiple scenarios and stuff like that. That's okay for interactive sort of gaming and stuff like that. I don't mind it in that, because that's part of the experience, because you as a player, a gamer, a part of the game anyway. When it comes to a film, there's a separation, John.
Yeah.
And one of the things, and maybe I call me old-fashioned, is that when it comes to filmmaking, I like to know I can trust my director. And we've seen that. We talked about, obviously, Scorsese and some of the endings, Shutter Island being a classic example. But then you look at Arlington Road, another fantastic film. Unsettling, sometimes not as fulfilling as you would expect it to be, because you have an idea in your head how it should end, but you accept the way things are.
Yeah.
But in terms of this concept, I'm not comfortable with having a multiple selection of scenarios on how I should think a film should end, or the conclusion of a film. I like to be the audience member, not participating in the actual film decision making. It's horses for courses, John. This is the way he wants to do it. Something he's been thinking about for a very long time. I just don't agree with it. I think in terms of filmmaker and audience, it should be a separate thing.
Yeah.
All the time.
Oh,
Every time.
There should be a creative idea in making a film, and it should be fulfilled to the end, and it should be the creative vision of the director, of the writers. And if the audience don't like it, then tough titty. You can't please everyone all the time. If you start opening the door to 4, 5, 6 different endings just to please different people, then my God, man, you'll never be out the bit in terms of making movies and content, because people want different things. And even if you make 5 endings, there'll be 5 other people wanting something different. You can't make people happy all the time. I understand it's maybe a more fun genre. It touches on it. It's a thriller comedy, so it's more light-hearted. I don't know the context of the story, so maybe it's been done in a way that it does work. Maybe read here and we'll get an idea. While Clue pioneered multiple endings theatrical model, the multiple endings theatrical model, Housefull 5 employs a comprehensive strategic approach. The film follows 3 imposters claiming to be billionaire Mr. Dobrie's heir Jolly, as they compete for his fortune aboard a luxury 20-storey cruise ship, with the mystery's resolution varying by screening. You see, that feels like a video game to me.
Yeah.
But with a video game, you're playing the protagonist, you're curating the story by decisions you're making, by choices you make with characters, locations and whatnot. And then you can go back and replay that. But with a film, that's not what I want from a film, much like you, Stephen. I want to go in and see a vision played out.
Yeah, you're not a character in the film, John. That's the difference. In a video game, you're the main character. You make those decisions. You shape your character and your decision making. In this, there's always going to be a disconnect because you're not in the story, physically not in the story, or emotionally in the story. You're not interacting with these other characters in the film. You're still an audience member. He does say, John, the idea of different endings came from a simple question: why should the audience always have just one version of the truth in a thriller? Because it's your film, it's your story. That's the answer.
Yeah.
I'm coming to see your film. I'm not coming to see my fucking film. I'm coming to see your film.
And I'm not coming to see a film where you couldn't make your fucking mind up, so you made 5 different endings because you're indecisive and you've got like hyperactive attention deficit disorder and you can't make one decision. I want a creative mind who has an idea and fulfills it through to the end. And if it's divisive or it rubs people up the wrong way, then so be it. You mentioned Scorsese, Stephen, Shutter Island, even Nolan with the likes of Inception. You can have open-ended stories or endings where people talk about it and they've got their own vision in their mind of how it ended and what the ending means. You don't have to give literally 4 or 5 different endings. You can be really intelligent and sort of ambiguous in the way you craft the story and then have that same experience, but people go away creating their own ending.
There's still people talking to this day, 13 years after its release, of the ending of The Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah, was he alive or not?
Did Bruce Wayne survive?
And we still don't know.
Was that just a vision of Alfred, his dream, his vision? People still talk about it. That's what I like about films like that. John, Arlington Road was the other one I mentioned earlier. It's such a frustrating and annoying ending, but it's such a good ending as well. Because the decision was made. That's it. Exactly.
The good guy doesn't always win.
No.
Most of the time, the bad guy wins.
Yeah.
And he should win in that case because they're clever sort of clandestine operators who are 4 or 5 steps ahead. The neighbour who's not got any expertise in that should not be coming in, butting his nose in and then foiling it and succeeding. It should be the sort of terrorist sort of figures or the sort of like undercover people with a sort of coloured past who should be coming away as the winners in that story. That's realistic storytelling. I understand what they're saying to an extent though, Stephen, that it's got great rewatchability and I suppose it would bring, and I could see it something that Western filmmakers to an extent would probably employ moving forward because it would give a reason for people to go back to a theatre and watch a movie 2 or 3 times as opposed to just one time. But you can sort of...
multiple films, John, where a director's cut's released. They did it with The Butterfly Effect, which had 2 different endings. And I always preferred the ending where he self-sacrificed in his mother's womb.
Yeah.
I thought that was powerful, and I thought the director made a very brave choice in doing that. And also, I think Donnie Darko was another one, but 1408, which is a great Stephen King film. John, you've seen it.
Yeah.
It's such an unsettling film.
He gets out in
but
one.
it has a great ending to it. But there's also another ending where he gets out.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's...
Well, the ending that I'm thinking of, he does get out, but then it's all a facade, because he's at the graveyard or something that appears in the mirror. Something like that.
Yeah, it's an illusion, yeah.
Shock, spoiler alert.
And sometimes I don't like to see the director's cut. Sometimes I just prefer the theatrical cut. Well, I prefer one or the other, that's what I should say.
Yeah.
I don't know what way it went, but I'd rather not have that, because then I'm misremembering the story. And that's the thing about a film, it's an experience in terms of the storytelling and how it stays with you. And if you've got all these different multiple choices in how a film plays out, I don't think that's very fulfilling for me. It doesn't satisfy me.
I don't like indecision when it comes to creative things like this. I like people to just have a story to tell and tell it. That's bollocks here. This organic word of mouth potential opens doors for multi-phase campaigns, targeted social storytelling and influencer-driven word of mouth. Fuck that. See this whole influencer stuff, this has to die. It has to die and die badly. We need to get these charlatans, these fucking clowns in the bin on like Instagram.
On YouTube.
More. I don't view myself as an influencer. We're certainly not influencers. We're critiques, Stephen. We're critical-minded people who like to give our opinion on things, or react and give our opinion on a trailer, react and watch and give our opinion on a film or a TV show. I certainly don't view myself as some sort of airheaded influencer who's wearing like clothes given to them by some nondescript company who's trying to get brand exposure and just mumbling fucking bollocks that they've been given verbatim from a company. We're very much independent thinking and critically sort of switched on. I mean, I don't want to blow my own sort of trumpet here, but certainly the both of us, Stephen, so many times we've watched a film or a TV show and we're about 5 steps ahead because we're switched on and know what's fucking happening, despite people saying we're not paying attention. So I like to think we're a little bit better than the average channel doing these kind of things, because we know what we're fucking talking about. I've been watching films since I was 3 years old. I certainly know what I'm talking about. Even if Rotten Tomatoes don't agree with us and don't want to give us official sort of critical status. Not like they're the sort of arbitrators of that, by the way. They're just a nondescript fucking aggregating website, so they can get in the bin as well. But no, I don't view myself as an influencer, and I certainly don't want directors or studios kowtowing to influencers and storied or driven word of mouth from these cretins on Instagram and TikTok and whatnot. Just keep creative.
John, where does the critical response come in then if we're going down this road? Because filmmakers will just say, you didn't like that? Well,
you can watch the other one.
You made that happen. You decided that version
That's
of
why I
the
don't
story.
want it.
They relinquish the responsibility of the storytelling at that point, don't they?
Yeah. It's a complete dereliction of responsibility. Of creative juice, period. They're just bereft. They're like a prune, dried up. Pish. Absolute shite baggery.
I would like that either, having to film different variations of a scene.
I mean, they do that anyway. They do reshoots and whatnot and get back, but it's bollocks. It should be a singular story with a singular vision, and it should be brought to the screen in one form. Stop shiting your pants because you want to be indecisive or give multiple versions. That's just a cop-out. It's an interesting idea, but not for me, I'm afraid. I'm a traditionalist when it comes to arts. I like things to be...
Not for this bear.
Not for this bear, no. I'm a traditionalist. I like my art to be... was it sacrosanct? Is that a word? Does that even make sense? I'm going to search it up just now. I can't even fucking spell it. Yes, especially of a principle, place or routine regarded as too important or valuable to be interfered with. It's sacrosanct. The art of film and TV and creative processing, be it music, film, art itself, it's sacrosanct. It should be left in its traditional form. Stop all this sort of fucking social media driven pish. So social media already has too much of an influence in society, and it's toxic. We don't want these cretins influencing endings and giving us 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different endings. I just want one creative vision and fucking tell it well, please. And that'll be it. And if I want to go back and watch it 4 or 5 times, then so be it. Not to catch Denis Villeneuve or Christopher Nolan or Quentin Tarantino or guys of that ilk doing this kind of nonsense. Martin Scorsese, Stanley Kubrick. They had a story to tell and they told it. In the fucking bin. Anyway, I digress. What was your thoughts on the 3 topics we touched on the show tonight? Thoughts on Scorsese, potentially in development with Eric Roth, not Tim Roth, for a new Mafia movie set in New Orleans, 1890. Way back in the day. Sicilian mobsters coming in and slicing throats of their rivals in theatres. All the usual shenanigans. Is it something you're on board with? Share your thoughts down below about it. Thoughts on Andor's record-breaking budget, $650 million for 24 episodes. Mr. Gilroy has shared. I broke that down, $90 million for the equivalent of 7 feature-length films. I don't think that's a lot of money. I thought it was an outstanding show. It justified its price tag. Share your thoughts down below about that. Thoughts on Shahid Nadiawalla's Housefull 5 and its multiple endings. Influencers driving word of mouth. Is it something you have seen, enjoyed, want to see continuing? Or do you agree with me and Stephen that it's a lot of absolute fucking bollocks? And you should just keep it short and sweet, one simple story, and have some conviction when you're creating something, instead of being an absolute shite bag, fence-sitting, happy clapper. Share your thoughts down below about anything at all, down below in the comment section. Like the video if you've enjoyed it, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon to get notifications straight to your eyes on YouTube, follow button, notifications button over on Twitch. And all that's left to be said is until the next time, thank you once again for watching us, and bye-bye.